You know how every year it's the same story? We're pulling out sweaters in December, and then just a few months later, May feels almost unbearably hot. And then, like clockwork, the rains show up in June or July, right? Well, none of that is random. It's all part of this incredible, powerful engine that drives the climate of the entire Indian subcontinent.
All right, so let's get right into it, because this is where things get really interesting. If you just look at a map, at India's location, and you consider the global wind patterns, well, most of the country should be a desert. Seriously, a dry, arid place with almost no rain. But obviously it's not. So the big question is, what on earth is going on? What massive force is so powerful that it can completely change the climate destiny of a subcontinent?
Well, the answer is just one word: the monsoon. And this isn't just some casual term. The monsoon is so powerful, so dominant, that India's entire climate is officially classified as a monsoon type. To really wrap our heads around this engine, we've got to start with the wild extremes it creates. Okay, get this. In the summer, you could be in the Rajasthan desert, and the temperature can hit a scorching 50 degrees Celsius. That's 122 Fahrenheit. Just unbelievably hot. And then you go to a place like Dras in the Himalayas during winter, and the temperature can drop to a staggering -45 Celsius. It's almost hard to believe it's the same country, right? The swing is just massive. And here's the key. These crazy swings in temperature, plus the massive differences in rainfall you see from one place to another, they're not mistakes or weird one-offs. Nope, they are the defining feature of the climate here, and it's all being run by the very same engine. So, how does this whole thing actually work? I mean, yeah, lots of things can affect a climate, but for India, the story really comes down to two absolute giants on the map. They're the ones setting the stage for everything. And who are these giants? First, you've got the Himalayas up north, and second, the massive Indian Ocean that wraps around the peninsula. It's how these two interact that unlocks the whole mystery. Let's start with the Himalayas. Think of them as a giant bodyguard for the subcontinent. This massive wall of mountains literally blocks the freezing cold winds that try to sweep down from Central Asia. That's the main reason why winters in India are so much milder than in other places at the exact same latitude. And then you have the ocean. It's like a giant thermostat. You know how land heats up really fast in the sun, but a huge body of water takes forever? Well, that's what's happening here. It means the coastal areas don't get the same crazy temperature swings as the inland areas. And this difference in temperature between the land and the sea, well, that turns out to be absolutely critical.
Yeah, that temperature difference? That's what powers the whole show. This is it. This is the big aha moment. This is how the monsoon engine really fires up. And it all boils down to one simple, but dramatic idea: a complete reversal. You know, it's funny, the word monsoon itself comes from the Arabic word mausim, which just means season. But the really important part is what it describes: a seasonal, total flip-flop in the direction of the wind. So we're not just talking about rain here. We're talking about which way the wind is blowing, and that changes everything. Okay, this lays it all out. In the winter, the land is cooler than the ocean. That creates high pressure, which basically pushes cold, dry air out towards the sea. That's your dry season. But then, in the summer, the land gets super hot. That creates a giant low-pressure zone that acts like a vacuum, sucking all that moist air in from the sea. And that 180 flip, that is the monsoon. That's what brings the rain. So this incredible engine, this reversing of the winds, creates this really clear, predictable cycle. So let's talk about what that actually feels like on the ground as we walk through the 4 distinct seasons of India. You can think of the year as a play in 4 acts. You've got the cold weather season, or winter, then the hot weather season, summer, then the main event, the advancing monsoon, which is the rainy season, and finally the retreating monsoon, which is kind of like a transition period. So as we head into that hot season, from about March to May, things really start to heat up. And if you're in northern India, you get this thing called the Lu. It's these incredibly strong, hot, dry winds that just blast you during the day. It kicks up dust. It's just oppressive. It's like the final intense buildup before the monsoon finally breaks. And then this. By early June, that low-pressure system over the land is just so powerful, it yanks in those monsoon winds from the ocean. And they don't just drift in, they arrive with a bang. It's amazing to see how quickly they spread. These moisture-packed winds just sweep across almost the entire country in a little over a month.
And the amount of water these winds are carrying is just mind-boggling. When they slam into the Western Ghats Mountains, they're forced upwards, and they just dump their rain. We're talking about huge amounts. The side of the mountains facing the wind can get over 250 centimeters of rain just in this one season.
Okay, so what happens when the party's over? Well, by October, things start to change. The land starts to cool down, which means that low-pressure vacuum starts to weaken. The winds basically run out of steam. They stall, and then they begin this slow, gradual retreat, starting up in the north and pulling back towards the south.
And this retreat phase creates this really weird, sticky transition period. The rain stops, and you get these beautiful clear skies, but the ground is still wet, and the days are still hot. So you have this combination of high heat and high humidity, and it creates this really oppressive feeling that people call October heat. Okay, so that's the mechanics of it all, but the monsoon story is so much bigger than just weather charts and pressure systems. It's actually a force that binds the whole subcontinent together.
And this is really the most important takeaway. There's this quote that just says it all perfectly. The Indian landscape, its animal and plant life, its entire agricultural calendar, and the life of the people revolve around this phenomenon. Think about that. Everything, farming, festivals, even songs, it all circles back to the monsoon.
And if you need visual proof, here it is. This rainfall map is basically the monsoon's footprint. You can see it clear as day. The deep blues, where some places get over 400 centimeters of rain, and then the pale, dry yellows, where it's less than 60. The monsoon is literally drawing the map of the landscape with water. But even with all those differences, its power to unify is just undeniable. Every single year, from the northernmost plains to the southern tip, everyone, and I mean everyone, waits for the monsoon. It's this shared national experience. These winds connect the whole country, delivering the water that kicks off the farming season for hundreds of millions of people.
And that brings us to one last really important question. We know the monsoon can be unpredictable, right? Sometimes it's late, sometimes it leaves early, it can bring floods to one area and drought to another. So here's the thing to think about. In our rapidly changing world, if this incredibly powerful country-unifying engine becomes even more unpredictable, what does that mean for the future of over 1 billion people whose lives are completely tied to its rhythm?